This is the Galaxy S23 Ultra and it came out a few months ago. This is the S21 Ultra and it came out a couple of years ago. Obviously, the newer phone is better in several different ways, but the only thing I really care about is how much better the cameras are. So, let's compare them. Hey guys, hope you're well. So we've got several different categories we're going to go through in our comparisons, and we are starting off with the selfie camera. The selfie camera on the S23 Ultra has taken a huge resolution decrease from the S21, down from 40 megapixels to just 12. But don't let specifications deceive you, the new selfie camera is consistently superior. Photos capture more detail, more sharpness, and often with a more pleasing color profile. Not always though, there are a few examples where skin tones are a bit over-exaggerated, but in general it's a worthy upgrade over the S21. The S23 Ultra features a new dual-pixel phase detection autofocus, which in English basically means you should expect much more reliable and fast autofocusing to make sure that you never get a blurry picture. Though I rarely found any issues with the S21 Ultra as is. Video is also much nicer to look at on the Galaxy S23 Ultra, but don't just take my word for it sitting here in the office. Let's go test it out.
So when it comes to the selfie camera, I think it's a very clear and obvious win for the S23 Ultra, not just because the colors look so much more natural and pleasing to look at, which is consistently the case both when you take pictures and video, but also because it's quite clear that the sharpness and details that you see in the image are just a lot better defined with the S23 Ultra. So here you can really tell that this phone is a couple of generations ahead of the S21 Ultra.
Video stabilization has seen a dramatic improvement from the Galaxy S21 to the S23 Ultra. And that's not just because of electronic image stabilization, which certainly does play a part, but the optical image stabilization has actually been improved and it can now move around twice as much on the S23 Ultra, and you can certainly tell the difference. In some cases, it now does such a good job that you can't even tell that you're walking. Running is also handled in a much smoother way, although you do still get some minor shakes and jitters, but much less noticeable than on the S21 Ultra. The same can be said for stabilization on the selfie camera. This time it's all software based, but still very impressive and certainly a generational step forward. On the S21 you can still make out each step, whereas the S23 smooths everything out nicely. Moving on to zoom capabilities, the differences here are not as dramatic, and in fact I have seen some mixed results. Overall, I would say the S23 Ultra has made slight improvements to the zoom cameras, but you can definitely tell that Samsung was already pretty happy with the performance of the zoom cameras on the S21 Ultra, and they didn't want to invest heavily in upgrading that experience. You may see slightly improved sharpness on the new cameras, but in most cases, I don't think I could distinguish between old and new. I was really curious to see how the S23 Ultra would handle moon pictures. This was already a great party trick on the S21 Ultra, and Samsung really leaned into the marketing material around this for the S23, so my expectations were high. Unfortunately, I was left disappointed, and actually, the S21 Ultra seems to take better moon pictures. At first I thought it was a fluke, but I've taken probably close to 20 different sample images from each phone over the last few months, and every time the S21 Ultra's moon looks better. We learned recently that these images are AI enhanced, so I guess the processing on the S23 hasn't quite been refined enough yet. But still, it's strange to see a feature on a new product, especially one that was marketed so heavily, perform worse than on its predecessor. Video on the main camera of the S23 Ultra definitely feels like a worthy upgrade over the S21. As we discussed already, the video is more stable, but it's also more vivid and sharp, and the video features have been upgraded as well. Slow motion video is still an afterthought, but much better than before. 8K video is now shot at up to 30 frames per second compared to the maximum 24 you could have on the S21 Ultra, and the end result is much nicer to look at. The S21 Ultra seems to struggle with keeping the 24 frames per second, whilst on the S23 Ultra you get a nice, consistent, smooth 30 frames per second. Though I still think 8K video is a bit of a gimmick for now, and it's a few years away until it becomes mainstream and actually useful for most people. Photos are very nice on the S23 Ultra, and the experience is generally consistent with everything we've discussed so far. Occasionally, I will be surprised by just how good the camera system is on the S21 Ultra, and I do run into some scenarios where the images look better from the older phone. But you have to remember that the S23 Ultra is still quite a new device, whilst the S21 Ultra has had 2 years, or in fact more than 2 years of software updates. And those updates, some of them really did make a difference when it comes to the quality of images and video that comes out of this device. So over time, the S23 Ultra will keep improving. Still, in general, images retain more detail and better color science. Sometimes the S23 Ultra goes overboard with vibrance and saturation. Other times, the S21 Ultra leaves pictures looking too muted and lifeless, even if it is technically the more realistic shot. On the S23 Ultra, you now have a 200 megapixel main sensor, which is almost double that of the 108 megapixel sensor on the S21 Ultra. The added resolution is noticeable, although in most cases you won't be using this format, as the file sizes are massive and these high-res images often look worse than the standard 12 megapixel images unless you have perfect lighting conditions. I would say that the added resolution is useful when cropping into an image, and Samsung also seems to think so because they have done some marketing material about this. But I think in most cases, the optical zoom will provide a better end result. Portrait images are again a step up on the S23 Ultra. The background separation seems to be a bit more precise, although still not always perfect, and you get all the benefits from the main camera, which we've covered already. Interestingly, on the S21 Ultra, you have a 2x zoom factor option when shooting portrait images. This was not available at launch. Samsung added it in a software update after consumers have repeatedly asked for it. On the S23 Ultra, this is not available. So, did Samsung change their minds, or did they just forget that they've added it to the S21 Ultra? Who knows? In any case, for now, you can only use 1x and 3x. Low light performance is what I've been most excited about with the Galaxy S23 Ultra, and is actually the reason that I upgraded from the S21 Ultra. So, the verdict here is that the S23 Ultra is a significant step up. It captures more detail, has better color reproduction, but the biggest improvement for me is that the nighttime photos look like they're taken at night. The S21 Ultra tries to brighten the image, and often the images end up looking too bright and not pleasing to look at. The S23 Ultra lets dark be dark, while still highlighting the important parts of the scene. I've noticed that the S23 Ultra generally wants to use night mode more often than the S21 Ultra. That's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, it's just something to keep in mind, and you might have to turn this off manually if you're trying to take pictures of fast-moving objects. When it comes to features, I think you already know that the new flagship will of course offer something more over the product from 2 years ago. In this case, the big new feature is the new Expert RAW mode, which lets you tweak all the settings you want manually, from exposure to ISO to focus and more. I can see why this could be really interesting for some people who love to tinker with their settings and have full creative control. I personally am not really interested in this new feature. For me, the biggest reason that this is the most important camera system in my life, and not, say, this, or the one I'm filming this video on now, is because this device is always in my pocket and it's always ready to go to take a video or a photo. And most of the time, the phone will figure out exactly how that photo or video should look to make it nice. However, it is fantastic to have the option. Another advantage of the Expert RAW mode is that you have more control over editing the images in a photo editing software, such as Adobe Lightroom. You can decide if you want to pull out more information from the shadows or highlights, change the white balance or color temperature, and you can do all of this after you have taken the image. The main cost of this is, of course, file size. So a typical image taken with the phone is about 2 megabytes. Now, a typical image taken using the Expert RAW option is about 30 megabytes, or 15 times as big. Now, obviously, if you use this feature a lot, that will definitely add up over time. Hidden inside the Expert RAW mode are 2 more cool features. One is astrophotography, which optimizes the scene for shooting long exposure night sky pictures. The other is called multiple exposure, and this doesn't do what I thought it does. In my head, this just sounded like the phone would take several pictures at different exposure levels to get a wider dynamic range. What it seems to be is more of an artistic feature where you can take an image of something, then take an image of something else and overlay or combine the two, which can create some cool effects. So in conclusion, Samsung have made some significant improvements to the camera system of the S23 Ultra, at least when coming from the S21 Ultra. I haven't had the chance to test the S22 Ultra, so your mileage may vary if you're thinking of upgrading from that phone. I don't expect to win any awards for discovering that the new phone is better than the old phone, but I do find it interesting just how much software impacts the end result. And that is really apparent in some of the images where the S21 Ultra actually outperforms the newer device. I'm not too worried about it, and I trust that the performance will continue to be enhanced over the next coming months, but it does give you a glimpse into the reality of launching new products onto the market, and that is that often these products are rushed in order to get them out and have them start earning revenue, even if the product itself could maybe still use a bit more development. For me, the S23 Ultra is a worthy upgrade over the S21 Ultra, even if on paper and on appearance there's not very much between the two of them. I will soon have a full review of the S23 Ultra, so make sure you stick around for that. And thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment as it helps the channel to keep growing. Take care and see you next time.